told me 30 minutes. A young man from Simmons Street a few years ago was complaining because he wrote his sermon down and he had 15 minutes of sermon and all that time left. And I told him, just get old. You see, when you get old, after about 25 minutes and your knees start bothering you, you may have a lot more to say, but it doesn't hurt to sit down after then because the body won't let you go past a certain length of time. So he don't have to worry about anything. It's good to be here. This time yesterday we were just about to get close to Memphis, Tennessee. We had a family reunion in Nashville, so we missed the first couple of days of this lecture. I'm sure that it was a great one, and we rushed to get here on this morning. The Lord gave us good traveling grace, no wrecks, everybody was doing the speed limit thereabout. So we're thankful to be here. The subject that was given is, and I have to look on the back, the hope that his words might be written in a book. The scripture that is given is Job chapter 19, verses 23, and I want to read a few others. He says, "Oh, that my words were written. Oh, that they was inscribed in a book." Verse 24, "Oh, that an iron pen and lead, they were written, engraved in rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives." But you see, in the time I have, I don't have, can't go all the places I'd like to go, but I'd like to look at Job as a book in a few minutes. Job is a rich man. He's known everywhere. He's a wise man. Everybody seeks him for wisdom. He's a good moral man. He teaches his children what they need to know. He does those things that a man does. And he doesn't have to walk around and pat himself on the back and tell everybody he's a man, because everybody who's associated with him knows he's a man because of the way he acts. Too many times people, and not all just young, have to tell everybody, "I'm a man." No. If you're a good husband, don't ask the man, because he's always going to give a good report. Ask the wife. If he's a good daddy, don't ask him, because he's going to always be the greatest. Ask the children. The problem is, when Job is a man, and when the devil approaches God and God talks about Job, God says, "I got a man down there. Let's see how a man acts." I'll get to that, because you see, at some point in time, all of us need to be able to look back and see what we can write down on our lives, because something is being written about you. A few weeks ago, I did a devotional, and there was a scripture that said Solomon lived with his fathers. He passed away. And all the things that Solomon did, are they not written in the Chronicle of the Kings? Every one of us is writing something right now. You may not be writing it, but you're writing it. When Job was first attacked, they took all his stuff, they took all his children, they took away his family, and Job rent his garment. Job chapter 1 verse 20, he tore his robe, he shaved his head, he fell on the ground, and he said, I came here with nothing. I'm going to leave here with nothing. Write that down. No matter what you've accumulated in your life, you came here with nothing. You're going to leave here with. You got anybody taking anything? You can get buried in that Cadillac if you want to, but it ain't going no further than the ground. You may look good sitting in it. God's not paying any attention to how you look. He's worried dealing with you on how you acted. Then Satan came back, and Job's health goes away. You know, the biggest thing, if your family don't get you, if your stuff don't get you, you take away a fellow's health. I appreciate churches where I see older folk, because see, I've gotten that way now. A few years ago at a family reunion, my oldest brother came in and he had his limp, and my youngest brother came in and he had his limp, and I hopped up and I acted. That was 10 years ago. You see, they called for all those brothers to get up and take a picture, and all of us had our limp. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether your health is not the best. What matters is the relationship with God. And so God took away everything. Job's wife in chapter 2 verse 9 said, why are you holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die. Now, I can understand why she said that's her husband. She don't want to see her husband suffering. But that's a little drastic, isn't it? To get rid of you by. So he said, shall we receive good from God? See, God didn't guarantee you was going to have great things all your life. You're going to have some stuff. He made the road beautiful, but right underneath it, he put some thorns. Blackberry pie is good too, but if you ever picked a few. He said, shall we receive good from God? And then 3 friends show up. They just stared at him for a few days. And then Job began to talk. He complains. I can understand why Job would complain, because you see, this God that he has served all these years, and now all of a sudden it seemed like everything had dumped on him. And then look at the friends. They don't come to comfort Job. They come to condemn Job. And that's not any different from us today, because we see somebody, we are thankful when people come up to us and say, you're doing good. We appreciate this. But if somebody come to complain, the first thing we're going to start doing is talk about all those things we have done for those people. Van Alstyne is 50 miles. Let them start complaining. You know what I'm going to say? For the last 28 years, I tore up 3 cars, 4 sets of tires, coming up here 100 miles every Sunday. And that's the best I can get. I got some Job in me, but I'm not the only one here got some Job in them, because somebody else has got some Job in them too. What's your complaint? But complaining is not sin. Job is not saying God is picking on him, even though he feels like God is picking on him. But God picks on everybody, doesn't he? Anybody in here got bad knees? Anybody in here got a little sinus trouble? I just quit. But you understand the point I'm making. God is not picking on us. God is trying to teach us a lesson, and until we go through some difficulties, we never see the blessing. You see, if you jump over to the end of Job, the book of Job, you'll find out that Job saw that in the midst of his sackcloth and ashes, he's blessed with a piece of broken pottery to scrub his injuries, to scratch his injuries. He's blessed with some rough clothing to put on. He's blessed with breath and with heartbeats. He's blessed. We just can't see it because all we can see is all those things that's wrong with everything else. Job started complaining in chapter 3. One of his friends came up and he said, Job, you can't be innocent, because if you're innocent, you wouldn't have all this stuff happen to you. So why are you complaining? You talk to other folk, gave them wisdom, gave them good information. You talk to people. You lived all your life, and you've been a hypocrite, because deep down inside, when it came your direction, you can't take it. The problem is, we still do that today, don't we? We have 20 vision. You see, when I define vision, I don't see it as 20/20 going out. I see 20 going out because I can see every fault you got. But I can't see anything that I am doing. We got 20 vision. His friends had 20 vision. Why are you condemning? Why do we condemn? So Job's complaint is, let me write it down so that this next generation can understand what God does. And everything God does, he's teaching you something that'll make you better. His other friends came up. Job said 10 times, if you look in chapter 19, Job said, how long will you torment me? That's verse 2. And break me to pieces with words. Everything you're saying is not true. I have good moral character. I have done what God has commanded me to do. For 10 times you have cast reproach on me. You found everything wrong. I always put it like this. At the job, you see, whenever we took a trip, 900, 1,000 trips. Now, I haven't been that many. 998 went flawless. We left on time. We got where we needed to be. Everybody was comfortable. Everything was fine. And nothing was said. Nothing. I know the word is nothing. Nothing was said. One time. And everybody knows. Job was going through that. All these times when he's doing well and he's helping people and he's opening up his wallet and he's doing this for folk and he's giving wisdom and he's doing all of this, nothing said. Now he's down to sackcloth and ashes. What you do wrong, Job? can't be. Because you had to do something to be in this condition. No, I didn't have to do something. It's just that life did this. He said, even if it be true that I have erred. You know who takes the blame for that error? I do. It's not your business to make sure that everybody know how wrong I've been. God already knows. He has already determined my punishment or my reward. Look at yourself. But they're so busy looking at Job that they can't see themselves. 20 fish. He says, if indeed you magnify yourselves against me, you see, that's a good time for me to show how good I am and how good you are not. You see, because you're in all this trouble, and I know you're in trouble because you didn't do something right. Now, you can act like you did all right, but I know you did something wrong, because God just wouldn't put all this on a man if he didn't do something wrong. And how many of us can truthfully say we haven't done anything wrong? So why you want to pick on me? Why you want to pick on me? Because I'm just like you. And so he says, I crowd in violence, but I'm not answered. I call for help, but there's no justice. He walled up my way. He talks about God. He put me in a space. The question is, what do we do in our space that he put us in? Because the only one that can get us out of the space that God puts us in is God. And we can't get out until God says so. He set darkness upon my path. He stripped me from glory and took the crown from my head. He breaks down me on every side. That's the problem we have. Most of the time, we need to be broke down so that we can see what God has for us. You know what the children of Israel's fault was? When he led them out of Egypt, he gave them 10 plagues. 10 plagues so that they could see his power over all the gods of Israel, Egypt. He gave them a cloud to follow during the daytime, fire to follow during the night. And when they got to the Red Sea, what did they see? Water. He's done all of this stuff for them. And all they could see was water. They could see what was in front, water, and they could see what they used to have. Is that our problem? If you're going to write something down on your book, what would you write? What you going to write? And so he saw water. And then Job makes a list. His friends have turned their backs on him. His family don't want to deal with him anymore. His little nieces and nephews. There was 3 in the back of the car yesterday. If anybody want to take a couple of grandchildren home with them, I can recommend a few. At least 3 anyway. 12 hours is a long way to go with. But you know something, there's a lesson in that. The lesson in that is, as we go through life, it's our job to show those younger folk what good, what God has done. You see, one of those kids said, Daddy, we need to do some, Paul, we need to do some studying because he wanted a Bible. You see, his parents are in that condition where they are two different places. And he needs someone to stay in his life to help him to understand some things. You know, he gave Paul that responsibility. You may fuss because you say, well, I raised mine. But if your grandchildren are going to get anywhere, you may have to raise them too. You see, that's the reason why we say we're losing our children in church. I'm sorry, I'm off script, aren't I? But we're losing our children in church because sometimes we need some grannies, grandmas, some GGs and some pawpaws to get in there and do something with those children so they'll have some good direction. Now, let me get back on the script. His brothers had left him. His relatives, verse 13, chapter 19, his relatives have failed him. His close friends have forgotten him. The guest in my house and my maidservants count me as a stranger. I become a foreigner in their eyes. I call to my servant and he doesn't even answer. I will plead with him with my mouth for mercy. Don't hear anything. The young children despise me, verse 18. When I rise, they talk against me. My intimate friend, those folk who used to not mind me, spotting alone. You know, we have money friends. You got money, they your friend. Get rid of it. You ain't got no money, no friends. He said, and then he talks about his condition. He said, my bones stick to my skin. Look how horrible I look. And yet, even in this detestable look, I still have God with me. I'm pleading with my friends, have mercy on me, for God's hand has touched me. Why do you, like God, pursue me? Now, I've already having enough trouble with what I'm going through because I feel like God has deserted me. But why are you joining God? Then he says, if I could just write it down. You know something? What would you do? What would the world be like if you took the time to write down your experiences? What you've gone through? Could you at the end of your book say, shall we take good from the Lord and not evil? And just the good and not take the evil too, I mean? Could we say, I didn't come here with anything. I'm going to leave here with the same thing I came here with. 265 pounds more of it, but that's all. But here's the thing. Let me write it down. But I don't want to just write it down because, you see, you can erase stuff that's written down. Let's put it in some rock. Let's put it in something that has some sustainability so that at the end, somebody else can benefit from what I'm going through. Now, the question is, if you're going through this with God, will somebody be able to benefit from it? Because when they have their tough time, their difficult day, there are times when everything is going wrong, that they can still look up and see God's hand in their hand. Or will they see somebody who turned God's hand loose? You see, God never turned his hand loose. If anybody gets turned loose, is we turn God loose. And so he says, oh, that my words was written, inscribed in a book, that that with iron, pen, and lead they were engraved in the rock forever. So that somebody else, when they come through this way, and everybody's going the same way, will be able to see what God has done, what God can do. And so he says, I know. Y'all like that? I know. It doesn't matter about all this stuff here. Because you see, too many times we put our emphasis on our education, we put our emphasis on our achievements, we put our emphasis on everything else. But Job says, in all of that I had, that I don't have, and whether I get it back again, only God knows, but I know he lives. And I'll live too. What he's got in store for me, I may not know. What he's going to do for me, I may not understand. Why I'm going through this, I may not understand. Maybe he sent these fellas here to help me, point me back to him, because somebody had to come in and play devil's advocate. And so they just came in and told me all the stuff that was wrong with me. But I know, as long as I got the right relationship with the Father, it don't matter what's wrong with me. Because John 3:16 said, God so loved me. Now, I know it said the world, but I'm glad me is in the world. I'm glad God so loved me. Romans 5:8 says that while I was a sinner, I know it said while we were yet sinners, but he said while I was a sinner, he demonstrated that love for me. Now, I'm not discounting you. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what your pains and sorrows. All I say is be encouraged. Hold up your hand. Hold up your head to God, because in the end, everything is going to be all right. He says, and after my skin has thus been destroyed, yet I see my flesh, yet in my flesh I see you, God. Let's close this way. It says 5 minutes, and I'm going to be obedient. 2? I got 2. But I can do that in 2. In Job, the 42nd chapter. I love this text. Job said, the Lord answered Job. You see, let's get the background on this. Job kind of told Job to shut up in verse 38, chapter 38. Let me talk. And then God talked to Job about a few simple things. Where were you when I did all this stuff? You see, the problem is, too many times we get so big that we did all of this stuff. We had to have a counsel with God so he could get it right. No. Where were you, Job? Here's what Job said in chapter 42. He said, I know that you can do all things, and there is no purpose of yours that can be thwarted. You see, the problem is sometimes we question God about his purpose. That's what we do. The reason why Job is in the fix he's in and he's questioning God about his purpose. Don't question God about his purpose. It'll work out in the end. And he said, I know. You can do all things. There is no purpose of yours that can be thwarted. Who is this who hides counsel without knowledge? That's me. Because I always talk about stuff that I don't know nothing about. But am I the only one? Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful to me, which I did not know. Hear and I will speak. I will question you, and you have made it known. I will question you, and you have made it known to me. See, I'm going to write all this stuff down, because here's what I learned while I was going through all the stuff that I'm going through. Here's what we need to learn as we go through the things that we go through. We need to know that there is a God. Job said, I heard of you by the hearing of the ear. But now, I know you. I may not understand why you put me through everything you put me through, but I know that the end is going to be great, because you're going to do it right. And I'm going to put it in a book so that somebody else will come along one of these days and know who God is. Because I can see you now. I couldn't see you then. Thank you.